So I had this theory since December of 2025, long before this trailer dropped and long before everyone online suddenly had a take. And I want to be honest about something first. It's slightly frustrating watching this unfold because as somebody who stayed loyal to this franchise, whether the good stretches or the bad ones, you can tell that there are a lot of people rushing a theory out this week after the trailer just to be the first. So some of it is genuinely put together well. I've watched these videos and some of it is late and obviously dressed up like Insight. And I've seen threads being built since Tony's scene with his father years back, I swear. And none of that reads like an accident to me. This is something I've been sitting on for a while and the trailer just confirmed it for me, so I thought I'd speak up on it. Before I get into the actual theory, I want to name the mood around the theory because I think that the mood is actually the real story. People are exhausted with this franchise right now, and a lot of that exhaustion is earned, but I don't think all of it is just bad writing. I think some of it is just people reaching and agendas to explain something that's really a symptom of where we are culturally. Because plenty of it has been good. I mean, Loki was excellent, Shang-Chi held together, and Hawkeye is generally one of my favorites. And I'll admit, part of it is me liking Kate Bishop. I mean, Haley Steinfeld sells the character perfectly and she's kind of hot, but What If? That's a great show. The pieces have been there and been there from the beginning. And what people are actually reacting to, I think it's a feeling of collective disconnection. And that feeling isn't a mistake, it's deliberate because it mirrors exactly what's happening outside of the theater. I mean, think about it plainly. We are disconnected in culture right now. Everybody's in their own feed, their own algorithm, quietly falling apart while insisting things are fine. And if the real world looks like that, why would a fictional multiverse feel clean and whole? A multiverse sitting inside of a culture that's already fragmenting should feel messy. I think that was the intended design, and it got compounded by some genuinely uneven writing on top of it. I mean, I didn't like She-Hulk either, but people are skipping the shows that would have filled in the gaps, and that's the same way people aren't even looking at Valentina and what she's doing. I mean, I understand that. There's a lot of homework that you have to do, but if you love Marvel and you love this franchise, you should be doing the homework. It's something that you enjoy to watch, correct? But missing a chapter doesn't mean the outline wasn't there in the first place. So here's where my actual theory starts. I think Doom is going to walk into this story as the person who claims he's there to save it. And I think that the key to understanding him is that he carries the exact same emotional shape as Tony Stark. We love Tony. Tony was the beginning of the entire story for most of us. So if you follow that mirror through, someone we were collectively attached to is coming back wearing the posture of a savior. But here goes my actual prediction. And it's the part that I think we've been missing through all of this. If he doesn't deliver the ending we want, like a clean, cohesive resolution to everything that's been left hanging, it's going to be more than just disappointing. Because based on my theory, he's there to tell everyone he's going to fix it, and what he actually does is make it 10 times worse. That is Tony Stark's whole pattern across every story he's ever been in. He shows up, he tries to fix things, and makes them worse. And we can see that with Ultron. He usually has good intentions behind all of that. This time, the shape is the same, except it isn't worse for good anymore, it's worse for bad. Tony's face, or the variant wearing it, is a trustable face, so the entire fictional public inside of this story is going to walk in with a built-in assumption that this ends well, because the face earned that assumption over a decade of stories and his own death. And when the assumption gets betrayed, that's the whole point being made. I think that's speaking directly to where we actually are. Our version of that trusted face has been technology. Our phones, our connections, the system's quietly running underneath our daily life, and they've done real good for us, but there's a version of all of that which flips, which starts working against the people it was built to serve, and that flip becomes uncomfortable in the moment people start looking for something else to believe in. So I love Spider-Man, and I've loved him specifically for his morals, not just because he's a hero, but because of how tightly his character stays woven in the bigger story while staying upright the entire time. You never watch him make a decision and walk away disappointed. That consistency is the whole point of him. In my theory, he's the one who shows up in the final act to save everyone, because he's an anomaly. Someone who can remember what everyone else can't because they don't know his real identity. And I think there's a real parallel worth naming plainly. So I'm a Christian, and Christ is the figure who has to return, and Christ remembers past, present, and future completely. He understands the whole picture, and he's the one who reigns at the end. So watching where this story is heading, I think Spider-Man ends up being the one who defeats Doom for exactly that reason. Good against evil, but specifically a good that remembers versus a control that erases. He has to make the decision for everyone, whether to actually resist what's coming or let a controlling force win by default. And it's going to be different precisely because that threat wears the face of his mentor. That's the hardest part of any of this, comfort, and how easily we settle into learned behavior. And that's what I think we're being shown in 2026. Are you going to choose comfort, your phone, your technology, and the systems being quietly steered against you, or are you actually going to push back against it? Spider-Man could easily decide the universes are already colliding, so he might as well retreat into his own corner and let the rest play out. But he doesn't. And the reason he doesn't is worth walking through. So Valentina is the reason he doesn't walk away, I think. And I think she's the key to this entire thing. She reads to me like an older generation, people who come up believing that control is the only way anything actually gets fixed. She won't fully let go of being the person managing everything, the lever behind the scenes, and I think that maps onto something real. There's an older generation right now working closely with technology to build a version of order that answers mostly to itself. But there is a point where this goes too far and a choice has to be made. Either that generation lets the next one actually lead, or they refuse and everything collapses under the weight of their own control anyway. Valentina goes to Peter directly and tells him she knows exactly who he is, that she's been watching him and that sending someone after him was really about pulling him back for the exact right moment. And despite how it looks on paper, I think she ends up doing the right thing when it counts. I mean, Thunderbolts already showed that that's her whole approach. She plays the villain right up until the real crisis lands, then be the one holding the door open for the people who can still fix it. Because if we look at New Avengers, they were built off of people written off as broken. They were turned into something useful, and that's genuinely a good outcome, and I think that's what she's going to actually be building towards the whole time with Spider-Man. And that's the moment I think that saves him. She remembers him for who he actually is, right when it would be easy to just be comfortable. Just like an older generation should be reminding the younger one right now that the road ahead is going to be difficult no matter what choice gets made, but it has to be walked through anyways, and if there's going to be a next era, it's worth reaching for. Once the pressure gets bad enough and once the system people have leaned on stops working the way it used to, I think that's the moment the shift towards the next generation actually happens. I mean, Thunderbolts already showed us one version of a new Avengers, and I think Valentina and Peter end up being the two who start the actual new era with a different structure underneath it. And not a team built around tearing through a city with one person at the center of every decision, Iron Man, a team that actually works because the weight is shared. The Fantastic Four becomes fully a part of that story, and it's what points towards this shift. For the first time, we're seeing a real political structure at this level. We're seeing different factions in different corners of the world actually have to address each other directly instead of operating alone. And the detail worth sitting with is that Latveria isn't part of the table. That absence is a hint, and I think it's directly deliberate to all of this. Because this is going to be a second learning experience for everyone at the table, including the Fantastic Four. Doom is a threat on the level nobody in the story has actually faced. In this trailer, he stops a weapon that's supposed to be nearly unstoppable with his own hand, possibly through magic, and that tells you the ending of the last major crisis, which was the last Avengers movie, wasn't even close to the starting point of what's coming now. Thanos, by comparison, was nothing. And I think that maps directly onto where we are today in 2026. Artificial intelligence and the pace everything is advancing at right now is a different level of threat than anything we've dealt with before. And this isn't simple phones or slowing down problems like climate change. AI is fundamentally a threat sitting underneath every part of daily life at once. The same way with the new villain sitting underneath everything in his story. The new Avengers and the Fantastic Four learning to actually function as a team where everyone gets a fair share instead of one person hoarding all the control is a lesson that has to be learned before anything can be fixed at all. And I think there's a wound underneath Doom's ambition that explains why he's doing any of this in the first place. Nobody accounted for what happened to him when his mother was taken through dark magic. And that's my honest read on all of it. And I think that it ties into a variant dynamic with Tony directly. The same way we've already heard characters in this world talk about a brother and a timeline altered in a way that damaged everything downstream of it, all of this at the core is one long plan that got bent out of shape by politics. The Avengers fell apart in the first place because every decision orbited on one person, and now the Avengers went their separate ways once the structure broke down, and we're watching the consequences of that. So I want to address the deaths being teased directly, because I don't think that they're there for like shock value. I think that they're stakes, and I think we've earned needing them. This story has been too comfortable for way too long. Too many happy endings, too many good outcomes, one death per movie like clockwork. And Doom is going to do whatever it takes to get what he believes he needs. And if you look at that plainly against the real story, against actual wars and things that people are willing to do to each other to get what they want, the pattern holds completely. People do what they have to do, even when it costs other people everything. The stakes the last time around were one loss, and it was Iron Man, when they should have been many. And I think once you ask how that ever got allowed to stay contained, you land right back to the answer. And comfort always has to be paid for eventually. So all of this points to the same ending, and I think it's the most important part of this whole theory. Whatever gets broken in this story gets rebuilt afterwards, not by one person seizing control and forcing it back into shape, but by people actually working together, the way that the original team should have from the start. And that's not incidental, that's the entire lesson, specifically because he needed total control. And the people who come after him succeed by doing the one thing he never could, by sharing the weight instead of carrying it alone. That's the honest version of what this reset looks like and is actually offering us. A lot of the discomfort people are feeling right now comes from watching control concentrate in institutions, in technology, and a small number of hands, while everyone else is asked to stay comfortable with it. A story where that kind of control ultimately fails, and what replaces it is genuine, shared rebuilding rather than a new single ruler stepping up into the old, is the story about one kind of renewal that actually looks like people choosing each other over convenience. Not one savior fixing everything, Tony, and stepping back into the shadows. A whole world choosing one purpose to remember what happened and rebuild it together instead of forgetting and being managed. So that's where I stand on this trailer, and not because I rushed it out this weekend, but because the pieces have been sitting there since the beginning for everyone actually willing to look at it and confront themselves within this life. My name is Purple American. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day, and I appreciate all of you for watching all the way through. And I'm gonna make more. If you like this video and leave a comment on what you thought about this analysis, I'd be happy to get back to you. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you later. God bless.